Friends, I knew you would inevitably click on this video. We're talking about Elizabeth, a middle-aged high school teacher. However, she's far from your typical educator. She's both careless and rude. She treats her students poorly and frequently opts to show them movies instead of teaching. Most of the time, she's under the influence of either alcohol or drugs. Elizabeth's only aspiration is to marry a wealthy man and secure his fortune for herself. She's currently dating the son of an affluent businessman and plans to marry him soon. Because of this, she resigns from her teaching position. However, upon returning home one day, she's met by her boyfriend and his mother. Her boyfriend informs her that he won't be marrying her, having come to realize that she's not in love with him, but with his wealth. Over time, Elizabeth had developed a habit of pilfering money from her boyfriend's wallet to purchase extravagant items for herself. She denies the allegations, but her pleas fall on deaf ears as her boyfriend insists on ending their relationship, ultimately throwing her out of his house. Elizabeth is left bewildered, now devoid of a rich boyfriend and a job. She embarks on a search for another teaching position, but her reputation precedes her, and no school is willing to hire her due to her questionable behavior. Ultimately, she rejoins her previous school. On her first day back, she encounters a new teacher, Amy Squirrel, with whom she immediately clashes. Upon returning to her class, she's greeted by cheerful students, happy to see her return, but she remains indifferent. Instead of teaching, she chooses to eat her breakfast during class hours. When a student requests a lesson, she simply puts on a movie and naps in class. During her lunch break, she encounters her friend Lynn, another teacher at the school. Elizabeth confides in her about contemplating breast augmentation surgery, believing it will enhance her allure and help her ensnare wealthy men. We're then introduced to Russell, the school's gym teacher who harbors feelings for Elizabeth. However, due to his lack of wealth, she dismisses his affection. A twist occurs when a handsome, wealthy substitute teacher named Scott joins the school faculty. Upon discovering his financial status, Elizabeth starts pursuing him. Elizabeth makes it known to Scott that she's single. In response, Scott reveals that he recently ended things with his girlfriend. He shows Elizabeth a picture of his ex-girlfriend, and Elizabeth can't help but feel jealous as his ex-girlfriend is well endowed. She begins to suspect that Scott is only attracted to women with large breasts, leading her to contemplate breast augmentation surgery. The following day, she visits a clinic and starts filling out the forms for the surgery. However, she is taken aback when she learns that the procedure will cost her $600,000. She abandons the forms, finding herself in a financial rut with barely $600 to her name. That night, Elizabeth calls friends and family, asking them for financial assistance for her surgery, but none offer any help. In a desperate move, she contacts her ex-boyfriend, asking for $600,000 as compensation for their broken off engagement, but he abruptly ends the call. The following day, one of her students invites Elizabeth to a car wash event. Initially, she dismisses him, but when he mentions that the event raised $400,000 previously, she quickly changes her mind. However, she learns that the event is being organized by her adversary, Amy. Seeing a potential opportunity to earn a significant amount of money, she decides to seize it. Elizabeth approaches the principal, using her charm to persuade him into allowing her to host the car wash event instead of Amy. Surprisingly, he acquiesces, making Elizabeth the new host. On the day of the event, Elizabeth arrives wearing revealing attire and washes cars in a provocative manner, even dousing herself with water. This spectacle amuses the crowd, so much so that a police officer crashes his car while watching her. She convinces two of her male friends to donate extra funds, citing that her school is in dire need of financial support. Her plan proves successful. By the end of the day, she has amassed $800,000. He donates $400,000 to the school and keeps the remainder for herself. However, Amy discovers her deception. Outraged, Amy storms into the principal's office, accusing Elizabeth of stealing from the school funds and demanding her expulsion. The principal, however, states that without proof, no action can be taken. The following day, a parents-teachers meeting is held. Unsurprisingly, all the parents are furious with Elizabeth. The parents question Elizabeth, demanding to know why she opts to show movies rather than teaching their children. Elizabeth retorts, asserting that she knows how to do her job. Once the meeting concludes, one of the students' fathers gives Elizabeth $200, asking her to focus more on his child. This encounter sparks a new idea in Elizabeth's mind. She decides to solicit $200 from each parent, promising to pay special attention to their respective children. Elizabeth is only $20,000 short of the amount she needs for her breast augmentation surgery. As time passes, she becomes increasingly negligent, paying little to no attention to her students. She also rebuffs the gym teacher's advances. Meanwhile, Amy starts developing feelings for Scott, and the two form a bond, much to Elizabeth's chagrin. One day, Elizabeth's friend Lynn informs her about an upcoming teacher's competition. The teacher, whose students score highest, will receive a $40,000 reward. This news invigorates Elizabeth, prompting her to take teaching more seriously. The following day, she delivers an actual lesson, giving out homework and daily assignments. Her students show notable improvement over the next few days, but it's not enough to secure a win in the imminent state test. Driven by her desire for the cash prize, Elizabeth devises a plan. She dons a revealing outfit and pays a visit to State Professor Carl, who is responsible for setting the examination papers. Using her charm, she lures him into his cabin and spikes his drink with sleeping pills. Once Carl is unconscious, she steals the exam paper from his drawer and distributes it to her students. A week later, the test results are released, and Elizabeth's students come out on top. She is rewarded with the $40,000, finally amassing enough funds for her surgery. She promptly visits the doctor's clinic and schedules her surgery. However, the following day, she discovers that Scott and Amy are now dating. This revelation stings, but Elizabeth remains undeterred. The next week, the school plans to take all the students on a tour, with Scott and Amy in charge. Upon hearing this, Elizabeth hatches a plan to sideline Amy. She injects a substance into an apple and places it on Amy's desk. Without giving it a second thought, Amy eats the apple. By the evening, her face is covered in allergies and rashes. As a result, the principal appoints Elizabeth to chaperone the tour instead. During the trip, Elizabeth seizes the opportunity to get closer to Scott, and they share an intimate evening. Meanwhile, Amy is on a mission to uncover evidence against Elizabeth to get her expelled from the school. She ventures into Elizabeth's classroom and attempts to search her desk, only to find it locked. Determined, Amy exchanges her desk with Elizabeth's and persuades the janitor to break the lock. As suspected, she discovers the stolen exam paper in the drawer. Armed with this evidence, Amy rushes to the principal's office, exposing Elizabeth's deceitful win in the competition. This time, the principal is inclined to believe her, but clarifies that Elizabeth can only be expelled if Carl confirms the accusation. So, Amy visits Carl and implores him to confess that he provided the exam paper to Elizabeth. She warns him that if he refuses to cooperate, she will expose his misdeeds to the public. Faced with this ultimatum, Carl reluctantly agrees to support her. Elsewhere, Elizabeth is thoroughly enjoying the school tour with the students. She even gifts her undergarments to a boy who was about to be bullied, boosting his popularity among his peers. This act impresses Russell, who begins to praise her. As they converse, Amy confronts Elizabeth, warning her about her impending incarceration. Sensing that the stolen exam papers have been discovered, Elizabeth starts to strategize. Once back home, she instructs her roommate to deliver a package to Carl. Upon opening it, Carl finds a series of nude photos of himself. It turns out that Elizabeth had taken these photos when he was unconscious. She strikes a deal with him. If he discredits Amy, No one else will see the compromising photos. Carl finds himself in a dilemma as both women are blackmailing him. However, he eventually decides to side with Elizabeth, denying ever having met her. Following this, Elizabeth informs the police that a teacher at the school is using drugs in the classroom. Upon realizing that Amy had switched their desks, Elizabeth decides to enact revenge by planting drugs in Amy's desk. When the police hear of this, they conduct a search of the school, discovering the drugs in Amy's desk and subsequently arresting her. This ensures that no one within the school could stand as Elizabeth's adversary. In the final scene, Scott invites Elizabeth on a date, but she declines, explaining that she already has someone special in her life, someone who is smart, caring, and handsome. Elizabeth then approaches Russell and kisses him. Deciding she no longer desires to marry a wealthy man, Elizabeth cancels her planned breast enlargement surgery. As the film concludes, she commits to being a better teacher and promises to properly educate all of her students.